So we're going to highlight Will Zalatoris. So I am really intrigued. Oh,
This man's got the same measurables as Devonte Smith.
oh boy! All right. So
He does though.
what an introduction. He actually does genuinely. Um, so Will Zalatoris is the highlight of our golfers for the month. So obviously I've never heard of this person before the Masters. I'm sure you've never heard of this person before that either. He made second place at the Masters and played an incredible final two rounds at the Masters and played really like a professional who's been in it for 30 years. So what I learned about him, which is interesting. We'll kind of go through it. So right off the bat, you see 6'2", 165. We are joking because he's not that far, literally the same measurables as Devonte Smith playing different sports. 24 years old out of Wake Forest. He just turned pro in 2018. This was his first Masters, and this was really where he began to make the most noise and become kind of a household name that I think he will be in the future. Reason why I think he'll be that in the future is because if you did watch the Masters along with many, many others, and what you did see was not only Hideki lighting it up and winning it like he deserved, but you also saw Will Zalatoris right there in contention at such an incredibly young age and showing such poise that you would see out of a guy like Tiger or Mickelson or something like that going into the final round. What I learned about him was quite interesting actually. So one, apparently he actually had a sports psychologist that he was seeing during his junior days in high school as well as in college, which really basically kind of helped him to develop a specific routine that he always has, as well as kind of develop the mentality that he has where, like I said, you saw him where he was basically almost unfazed the entire time. And he was pretty straightforward, down to business, what you would see out of a veteran, which was really interesting. And that's why I think he was very successful in the way that he was. And that's why I think he'll be successful moving forward because at such a young age, he's somehow mastered the mental side of golf, which is really, really crucial to being able to play, yourself into tournaments in round 3 and 4. So, what I also learned about him, though, he's got a very interesting swing to him. So we saw last time we highlighted Bryson DeChambeau, who's got a very interesting swing as well, and a very unique swing to his own set of golf skills and everything in the way that he goes about it. So with Will Zalatoris, it's kind of interesting too because he has a very unique. You could almost never see his face, but as soon as you see his swing, you recognize it as him. So the way that he kind of does it, generally when a golfer goes for a swing, there is a plane or a line that you kind of try to keep your wrists at the entire time when you go back and when you come forward. You want to basically go down that line. If you're a one plane golfer, you're always on one side of the plane. If you're a two plane golfer, you maybe your wrist kind of fluctuates between the two during that follow through or that going back and follow through. For him, it's kind of interesting. He's a one plane golfer, so he's always on one side of it. But if you notice, he goes back, it stays on the same plane, that same line kind of following through to the ground from the ball to his shoulder. And then when he comes through, he actually kind of gets away from the line pretty far. And but he's able to kind of make up for it by he like dips his shoulder down really far, kind of almost like looks like he's crunching, like scrunched over when he actually makes contact with the ball. And it kind of allows him to overcorrect the issue that he has not keeping, in a straight line. And he's able to hit the ball pretty consistently, accurately where he wants to go. And that's why he was where he was in the Masters. It's an odd swing for sure. It's not exactly how it would be taught and not exactly what you would want to follow walking, learning how to swing the golf club correctly. But it works for him, and that's what matters. I mean, he'll definitely probably have to correct it a little bit in his future in order to kind of avoid back issues because he does kind of overcorrect kind of harshly with his back, and that can cause a lot of issues when you get older. But for now, it works for him. So, and he's doing very well with it. So, moving forward, if it continues to work for him, I can't see him going away from it. It's just a thought that he might need to change that in the future. The other things that I noticed about his swing too, not only does he dip the shoulder down, but he also, when he starts, his stance is a little open. So he kind of corrects himself. And in golf, if you slice the ball to the right, sometimes you may open your stance a little bit. where you place your left foot instead of level with your right or parallel with your right, you placed it slightly back. So that way it kind of opens your stance up a little bit more. He kind of starts like that most of the time. Interesting, because it's almost like he's correcting for what he knows is already in his swing. Again, it works for him right now, so all for it. He might have to adjust his swing later on in life, again, because of the back issues that could occur in this type of swing, as well as maybe just correcting it in order to be a little bit more consistent and kind of a healthier swing moving forward. But for now, again, it works. He does do an interesting thing with his putter where he pins it against his forearm, his front forearm, in putting, which is different than most golfers. Bryson DeChambeau, who I mentioned earlier, and one of the golfers we've highlighted before, does this as well. It's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if it'll be a trend moving forward, but it works for him. He putted very well, and it kind of helps to stabilize everything. It's almost similar to how I believe Adam Scott used to do it, and other golfers used to do it, where they would pin it against their shoulder, and they had that really long putter that would go all the way up to their shoulder. I think those got banned, if I remember correctly, but this is kind of a different version of that. So we'll see how that continues and whether that becomes a trend. But it works for him well, obviously, again. And then the other thing too is that if you really look at his stats and kind of how he did in the Masters, his short game and his approach to the green was incredible. A lot of his shots were right on target. His drives kind of were iffy. He can drive the ball pretty far. I think he's ranked 20th in his drive distance. I think at like 306 or 307. You can see that if you scroll down. But essentially, he drives the ball really well. It's just a little inaccurate at times. So that can be kind of an issue. But yeah, so that's something that he can fix down the road. So 307.6 right there at the top left. So but if you look at his scoring average, as well as, like I said, his approach to the green, his short game is really what sets him apart and what really helped him in that Masters, because with those greens being as rough as they were and as unforgiving as they were, because it was a tighter green that let the ball roll a lot more, he was able to set it so close to the hole that he didn't really have to worry about it kind of rolling off on him. So that really helped him, and that's why he was so successful in the Masters. And that's real Zalatoris to a T. And again, just a really young golfer that has been making a lot of noise, made himself a household name in this Masters tournament. And I'd love to see how his career goes moving forward. Again, it's a very intriguing prospect because of his mentality and the way that he goes about the tournament, and the way that he does not really kind of waver in his emotions or anything like that, which is kind of incredible for a 24-year-old who's in his first Masters. He was able to play very controlled, very routine, almost like he was just any other golfing tournament. And that's, again, why I think that he'll succeed moving forward. So, any thoughts on him at all? I don't know if you really saw him at the Masters or have heard of him before.
I do not know the golf game very well. This is very much your area for it. But yeah,
that is our goal, is to try to learn more and more golfers, try to highlight at least once, maybe one a month, or one or two a month, depending on who kind of makes noise. He was kind of one of the younger ones that made some noise, so as kind of the one I wanted to highlight because of how well he performed. And that's, really intriguing. And I really look forward to seeing him in future majors making a lot of noise like I think he will.
Yeah.